you're getting on. Sat by the fireside, pondering on. Picture book, pictures of your mama, taken by your papa a long time ago. Picture book of people with each other to prove they love each other a long time ago. Picture book, picture book.
Set to go. It's a Wednesday. Clear skies here in Hallandale Beach. Jason Blewett, and look who's back. Miss Connecticut, Miss USA, Keisha Courtney, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who sent me so many well wishes and congratulations. It really just means so much to me. So yeah, Miss Connecticut USA on Saturday, and next up we'll be competing for Miss USA. So very excited, and obviously it's a tremendous honor.
Is it normal or at least somewhat typical for someone like yourself who had been Miss Connecticut to come back a few years later and re-win the title? Does that happen all that often?
So it's a good question. I actually previously competed in the Miss America organization. This is part of the Miss USA organization, Miss Universe, so it's totally separate. Any past experience that I had has absolutely no bearing. I had to start from scratch just like everybody else and had to try to win again. So it's definitely rare to win in both systems. But like I said, it was totally starting from scratch. So you never know what's going to happen with these things. So obviously I'm really excited.
Absolutely, we can tell, and it's good to have you back.
Thank you
I would
very
imagine
much.
You're the only contestant in the entire Miss USA entire competition that is at the racetrack here, ready to talk about betting on some thoroughbreds as we settle in a new week here. Already January 9th of 2019. We are less than 3 weeks out. Just about 2.5 weeks out from the Pegasus on January 26th, and things continue to take shape in terms of both the Pegasus Dirt and the Pegasus Turf. And as far as the numbers are concerned with the jockey and trainer standings, we've had a number of big wins here. Needless to say, Luis Saez and Erod Ortiz, I think, when you think about, boy, name me two riders who have had 3, 4, 5 win days on a somewhat frequent basis, it's going to be Louis and Erod.
Oh, it's just totally normal to see that Luis Saez visiting the Gulfstream Park Winner's Circle 12 times last week, which is just pretty crazy. And I read that he was 50% of the time in the money as well. So just an ultra consistent rider. And I think that that's what we really see in these top 5 as well. That you can consistently expect good things from them and the horses they ride.
And Paco has come on in a major way. First week and change, first couple of weeks, a little on the quiet side, but he has come roaring back into the mix here, and he'll ride a number of races today, including a few of the horsemen on this list, and a very talented group of trainers led by Jorge Navarro, who came down here, and I think his mission statement for this meet at Gulfstream Park was something he put out there in the public, said, look, this is the strongest, the biggest my barn's ever been. I think I've got the ammo to take on the perennial leading trainer in Todd Pletcher.
He does indeed. He has horses at Palmettos, over at Gulfstream Park West, and he said a goal for this meet was to try to be leading trainer, and having the ammunition and the numbers, the sheer number of horses as well, I think has really been key. But certainly we always expect to see Todd Pletcher up on that list.
Absolutely. 13. A baker's dozen for Todd, but Jason Service, who's 9 for about 23, 24. And Safi had a breakout 2018, and David Fox doing a great job. In fact, picked up a nice win in the Limehouse here. The day you were competing for Miss Connecticut, I'll tell you, his seismic jolt looked pretty good winning the Limehouse with an 86 Byron. It sounds like the swell here on Holy Bull Day, February 2nd, might just be the next spot for that horse.
We'll certainly be looking forward to that. A talented son of Cantharos as well. So pretty exciting to see that nice win.
What's on tap? An awesome-looking 7th race. I love today's 7th race. That is just a typical Gulfstream wintertime maiden turf event for the 3-year-olds. And let's not forget trainer Jonathan Thomas, who is bringing Catholic Boy It Sounds back in the middle of February, according to Mike Welsh of the DRF, and he seems to be loaded for bear in today's 9th race with Escapade.
He had to. He'll go it alone with Escapade now, as Dominance is out of the race, and both of those horses look to have speed, so that really could be a pretty key scratch in there as far as how the the pace scenario does play out, and you see quite a few calls from our top 2 leading riders.
Definitely 7 for Louis, and after a couple of scratches, Erod rides 4 this afternoon as we have far less than 4 carryovers. In fact, one big one as we inch close once again to that 6-figure mark in the Jackpot Rainbow 6 that begins with Wednesday's 5th.
Well, you know it grows quickly. That's the good thing about the Rainbow 6. $88,000 plus. That starts in race number 5 on this 10-race program. Just shy of that $100,000 mark, but it grows quickly. I'm sure we'll see quite a bit in that pool this afternoon.
Sun is out. That's a real-time live shot you are seeing there in the background. Not much wind out there on a clear and sunny Wednesday, January 9th, as we set sail for the first of 10 at about 12:40, give or take. We're on beach time here. A little less punctual than I'm sure you had to be in the Miss Connecticut pageant for sure.
Well, they say you have 5 minutes to change, and they mean you really have like 4.5.
Gotcha. So a different ball game here, but as we say, it's more of a relaxed, beachy vibe, sort of South Florida vibe. And that said, though, there's some pressure here with the early pick 5. What are we doing?
We'll try to do well off the bench. We'll show you my ticket here, $36. Now, what do you do with the Todd Fletcher drop-down runner in race number 1? You have the number 7 Alpha Oranis, who was cost $325,000, is now dropping in just his second start for 12.5. I am moving with caution with this one, who is taking the early money but using 3 horses. Going 3 deep in race number 2. That's a pretty solid maiden 50 race as well. Looks pretty wide open with some nice drop-down runners there. 2 deep in race number 3. Our top jocks look tough. You've got Louis Sias on the 2 Scatnap, and a horse I think will be very tough to beat in Paint the Corners, who has Irad Ortiz aboard. 4th race going 2 deep as well. Bold Painter in the 5th, hoping for a clean trip. That horse just has not had any racing luck in his first 2 starts so far. So I think now 3rd time out for Victor Barboza Jr., hoping we can get that one. And I'm backing myself up with Blue Sky Kitten for Wesley Ward.
Yeah, Wesley Ward drops down at gelding by Kitten's Joy, who seems to be a major player. I'm 6'4". Acacia obviously has those same 2 to close out today's 5th race in the early pick 5 as we again set sail with the opener, an older 12.5 maiden claimer on the fast main track. You could take out the 5 outside looking in, and I get the hesitation, the trepidation, the obvious red flags with the Pletcher drop down. In the end, though, having far fewer chances than the likes of like Dazzling Pros, who's 0 for 12, and even the one Curlin's Knight, who's 0 for 5. Just I put that second-time starter on top.
And we've seen Todd do this, too, that the horse will likely get claimed, but he'll take that aggressive drop in class and he'll win by the length of the stretch. So that's why I said I can't leave this horse off, even though I don't like a horse for this price tag taking such a big drop in class. Was off slow, didn't do any running, taking a lot of early money in that first race at Tampa. So it just seems like it's a real kind of give-up race second time out. But I think especially with the scratch in here of Outside Looking In, who looked to be one of the main pace setters, you could imagine Dazzling Pros might be forwardly placed, but I'm hoping Curlin's Knight could potentially wire the field from the inside under Miguel Vasquez, and now with Happy Altar making his second start at Gulfstream. I think that's key after shipping down from Woodbine.
And it's his second consecutive start going and demanding 1 turn mile. So you would think he's got some recent foundation to move forward off of, and a very good point in terms of that big pace scratch in the 5 Outside Looking In. To the second we go. We stay on the main. We'll stay out of that 1-mile shoot down the backstretch, bringing on these 3-year-old $50,000 maiden claimers and trying to, like you just did, and drawing up the race on paper and how might the second be run. The outside post with the number 6 Clipboard Money. I would love to see this horse just in the driver's seat from the best post of all, slowing it down and wiring the field.
The outside post is really an advantage in here, too. And I like the drop. His race at this $50,000 level 2 starts back going 1 mile and a 16th at Keeneland. Finished a good second, showing that early speed and at a little bit of a big price as well. So after stepping back up to special weight last time, clearly this is a horse who's just run much better for the tag, and this is going to be the right spot. I did take the number 3 Curlin Gray. I thought potentially Lucky to Be in America might be forwardly placed as well. I don't think he's as quick as Clipboard Money, but I think that Curlin Gray, is really going to relish this 1-turn mile. And I found a stat on trainer Kenny McPeak in the past 5 years on the dirt going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming. He backs at a 27% win average, just under 60% of the time in the money, and almost a $3 ROI. So some really good numbers there. And this is a horse who has never been exposed for the tag.
No, it's a very good point. And boy, does the second race have a Kentucky flavor and flair to it. Because you're probably looking at Curlin Gray and Clipboard Money vying for favoritism. And Queen's Bird for Ian Wilkes is going to take some money, too, yet another drop down. It does appear very much a race between the ship-ins, the Snowbird ship-ins from the Midwest between the 2, 3, and 6. As we, of course, head to the turf, race number 3, our opening grass race of this January 9th card is an older filly mare and a good race, a $16,000 claimer that has a number of different subset rematches in play here. The biggest one, I think, is the December 19th race, where you've got 3 coming out of the 7th race back about a week before Christmas, give or take, and that includes Paint the Quarters and Stay Safe Kitten. Both of these horses ranged up in contention turning for home, and they will miss in essentially a blanket 3-4 horse photo finish, giving the edge. I think a lot of people this afternoon are going to give the edge to the number 8, Paint the Corners, if for no other reason, the fact that she's going out for a near 30% barn in the leading trainer, Jorge Navarro.
She is, and she was down on the inside there. To me, in the stretch, she never looked completely comfortable. I don't know if it was that she was uncomfortable being inside of horses or what the deal was with that. Maybe just getting a little bit leg weary as they were coming down to the wire. But again, the second time here at Gulfstream, was the favorite last time, but she was only beaten by half a length. Picks up a Rad Ortiz today, which I do think is going to be very key. And she's pretty versatile in the past, too. She has some nice versatility with her running style. I respect Stay Safe Kitten. It's just been a long time since she's seen the winner's circle.
Absolutely. As Marcus Vitale, it seems like his horses have picked up off those seconds and thirds and are starting to convert some of those near misses to wins. And then we have Rob Falcone off the claim with the 2 Scatnap, who, if you're a fan of South Florida racing, you have to acknowledge and know her. Absolutely. She's a familiar face, and boy, it's hard not to respect the fact that she went 6 for 12 last season.
She's just been so competitive in pretty much wherever you put her, on the dirt, the turf, whatever it is. So first off the claim, it is hard to claim off of Barbosa and off of Saffie Joseph, but we know Rob Falcone does a great job, and Louis Saez stays after riding her last time.
Okay, post number 2 for her. It's an 8-2-7-4 for the gang here in Wednesday's third. Moving on to the 4th, back on the main track, we've got some 3-year-old $35,000 maiden claimers and a race in which we do have a disagreement in here. I don't actually know who's going to be favored. This is a very difficult race.
I had a hard time with this race.
You know, and I think the real issue is, or at least underpinning to this race, is it's a real hybrid, almost eclectic cast of maidens, none of whom, even the ones that have run, like my top pick, the 7 Cappy Hour, who's one of the most experienced in the race with 2 lifetime starts, nobody's really distinguished themselves even at a mid to lower level maiden claiming price. You know what I mean?
I do, and I kept looking at Cappy Hour, and this was the one that really scared me. So I can certainly understand putting this horse on top. The outside post last time, second time, Kathleen O'Connell. My thinking here with this, in the number 3, My Own Mo, first off the claim for Aubrey Mirage, has had some okay races so far, but can be forwardly placed, and I just think that this is a horse that maybe now first time out for this barn and a slight turn back in distance just might be primed.
And then we have right next door, and that horse undoubtedly dangerous, and Aubrey Mirage won consistently from New Year's Day of 2018 through December 31st. It was hard not to take notice and to be impressed with some of the claims he made and some of the turnarounds, for lack of a better term, that barn got throughout 2018. But right next door is Louis Saez riding. It's the 2 Louis. You got Louis Ramirez trading, and then Saez taking the call, which I think the knee-jerk reaction is that the 4 Smoker is live first time out.
He seems to be working well, too. And this is a barn, we've seen this, that maybe has lower numbers, lower percentages, and a limited number of horses, but does start to heat up all of a sudden. So take note, if they start sending out some live horses, we will see some consistently well-bet and well-running horses.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think at one time, a year ago, give or take, Louis had gotten on a run where maybe he won 5 of 8 or 6 of his last 10. And again, just Saez taking the call would lead you to believe that Smoker is well spotted and well intentioned, much like our Rainbow 6 and late pick 5 on this sunny Wednesday as we take a little time out here on Gulfstream today. A lot more after this.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with ExpressBet. Sign up for an ExpressBet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
Pretty dramatic there, commercial. First time we've aired here on Gulfstream today as, again, about 2.5 weeks out from that January 26th Pegasus World Cup. 2 races worth $16 million.
And we just can't wait to see the fruition of all of the buildup once again. The 3rd year here at Gulfstream Park. The first time we'll have both a turf and a dirt race. But one thing's for sure, it will be anything but normal, and I'm sure it will exceed all of our expectations once again.
Oh, those big days, they just have a way of leaving those lifetime lasting memories, and I'm sure we'll be in for even more great things here in a couple of Saturdays. If you're just joining us, it's Acacia and Jason on this live Wednesday edition of Gulfstream Today, and you're just in time as Acacia back from a week off and competing in Miss USA. You've got the Rainbow Six here.
Thank you. Yes, well, as I said, try to do well off of the bench. We'll show you my Rainbow Six here, 38-40 for me, and I'm going 2 deep here in this first race, the same 2 horses that I used in the cash out for the early pick 5, using a couple of horses 2 deep, the 4 Pagiti and the 5 Jordy's Ready. Both look really strong in my opinion in the 6th. 7th race Jason alluded to early. This is a really great turf maiden special weight race. You've got some top barns, Brendan Walsh, Mark Cassidy, Shug McGahee, Graham Motion, Chad Brown, just you name it, they're in there. We continue on 2 deep. I'm spreading in the 9th. That's going to be my tactic there. This, I think, is a pretty competitive turf sprint as well, and I like a price. I have my long shot in there, and my sister Caro, and then using 2 deep to cash things out, $38.40.
Yeah, very competitive 9th race. I wound up singling in my late 5, which we'll have in just a couple of moments. Escapade, thinking that with that scratch of her stablemate dominant, she might just be able to control, and I like the post and all that stuff.
That always seems to be the way it is, right? One person spreads and the other person singles.
Yes, but the last race, see, you're only 2 deep there, and I used 4 in that race. That race really gave me a hard time. I think it's the toughest, trickiest puzzle on the card today. But we do see in the 5th race, which, by the way, is a turf race, and a 3-year-old maiden 20 here on this January 9th. We see this race at a very similar light, and that includes, of course, the 4 Bold Painter for Victor B. off a couple of bad luck trips, and the drop down for Wesley Ward and Blue Sky Kitten, which just seems a seems to be a very logical contender.
It does. Blue Sky Kitten coming off of a big layoff. Hasn't run since June at Belmont, so stretching out in distance to go the mile for the first time. That race, it was a while ago, but there were a couple of next out winners. It's kind of a big drop to the 20,000, but Wesley Ward's barn has just continued to be on fire, so can't leave this one off. Again, I'm hoping Bold Painter gets a clean trip after some not so much racing luck in his 2 starts so far.
All right, let's hope that's the case. Do you hear us, racing gods? Let's move on to the 6th, halfway home, as we start our run from the half-mile pole to the finish line, and we do so commencing Wednesday's late pick 5. 2 deep, tight race between the chalks. I'm anxious to see how they're going to bet Pagiti and Jordy's Ready, if there'll be a sizable gap or if they'll both be in relatively the same price. Pretty good matchup between those 2 and a lower level 2 lifetime claimer to start things out. 3 deep for me, just love the 7th. That is a standalone top-rated affair on today's card. Another 3-pack for me, and in terms of just running style, across the board in the 8th race with a speedster, a stalker, and more of a 1-run deeper type closer on the turf. Escapade, my single, love the post and likely trip with no dominance in the race. Hopefully she just is able to get loose and run as well, if not better, than her most recent start on the turf for Jonathan Thomas at Gulfstream West. And boy, 10th race just gave me fits. I'm happy to say and see that you used 2-4 in the nightcap. They're both represented on the on that 4-horse spread there, but I also have some prices towards the at mid-pack to the outside with Jose Ortiz riding the 7, Subtle Hope. Maybe that horse has just improved all around, and Infinite Sky will be a much bigger price than that losing effort last time at 8-5 for a trainer I like in Bobby DeBona. So there you go, a $36 play. We up the ante. It's a good little sequence that begins, and I think as we start the sequence with the beginning leg, the 6, I thought why double the ticket? Maybe just take a stand, Pagiti or Jordy's Ready. But in the end, I couldn't do it.
I know.
You know?
It's tough. Yeah, it's really tough because you look at this race and you say, well, Jordy's Ready, so good last time out. I mean, won by 13 lengths, going to 7/8. So now stretching back out in distance. Might have been a combination of the drop, coming to Gulfstream, picking up Luis Zayas. It really could have been just a combination of things. And certainly facing winners for the first time. That is the next big step for her, but she was super impressive last time out. On the other hand, you've got Pagiti, who had been running pretty regularly on the turf. They switched to the main track last time. Very good second at a big price. So I think that this is a horse that maybe is just kind of finding her way.
She ran fine last time against Special Counsel, who's coming back a bit later. In fact, is one of 3 that I used in today's 8th race as she steps up in class. But you've got Jordy's Ready and Special Counsel as the big 2 in race 6. On to the 7th we go here with 36 minutes on the clock to Wednesday's first race. 3-year-old maiden turfers in a good-looking cast of a dozen where again, as Acacia noted, you got the pedigrees, you've got the connections, and you've also got, of course, in terms of the connections and pedigree to that extent, you've got Chad Brown setting out my top pick and your second horse, the number 6, Exalt, who, let's go back, courtesy of XBTV, this horse breezing just a few days ago on December 29th, the last published workout of this Colt by Noble Missions 2-year-old season. He's outside a stablemate of his up at Palm Meadows, and must have been a fairly warm morning just to see how lathered up he was, but I was wondering what you thought of the breeze.
Well, he's clearly much more lathered than his stablemate is, so that just might be a note of his. I'll be curious to see him in the afternoon and what he looks like warming up on track. I think it took him a couple strides, but once he got in right about here, you can see him kind of put his head down a little bit, get into the breeze, and then gallop out pretty strongly. Thought it was a nice performance from him. And anytime you have a Chad Brown first-time starter on the turf, I know you're a fan of the Noble Missions as well. This one has the turf pedigree too, so can't leave this one off. I liked the number 4, Medina Ridge. I know it's coming out of a layoff, but look at what he faced this Son of Warfront before the layoff in his only start to date. He ran against Current, who came back to win the Grade 3 Bourbon. We saw a Thread of Blue come back to break his maiden and then was impressive here a few weeks ago for Kieran McLaughlin. And I found a stat on trainer Shug McGahee, of course, top-class horseman. This is after this kind of layoff with maiden special weight runners on the turf. Some really gaudy numbers there, and I think a bigger sample size than maybe you're used to seeing for Shug.
Yeah, 51 starters, and he's beating the takeout and then some at $1.96 with that return of investment there. Good old Shug, one of the greatest of all time, and Johnny V get the Hall of Fame duo there. We've also got a potential Hall of Famer when he's eligible in H. Graham Motion, and Chris Landeros teaming up with the 5. He's No Lemon, who's been a non-factor at crunch time in 2 races to date, but 2 sneaky okay efforts out of this horse, including, and I figured, you know what, why don't we show a horse who recently ran here, ran against a good field, and didn't have a nightmare trip, but certainly was up against it because of a more lethargic inside. Now, the short comment is slow start. I thought this horse just broke fine and just was devoid of any early speed. It is tough to drop that far back and win consistently on this turf course. As they go into the far turn and wheel off the far turn, in fact, you'll see this horse out there in the red cap for Alex G. Campbell Jr. finish up again, never really threatening the trifecta horses per se, but I do think if you like this horse, and I think he's a sneaky decent price player, that he's finished up with some interest in his 2 races to date. He could be a horse who's just slowly moving in the right direction without that big flashy improvement, and those are the horses that can step up and pay a price.
And he's not stuck with the far outside post again today. He's had that in both of his races so far, and I agree with you. I don't think it was so much a slow start last time and just that he wasn't as sharp out of the gate as some of the other horses he was running against. So sometimes experience will fix that, maturity, and again, just not having to be so wide early on and maybe get some ground saving trip today.
The Korean bred, I know we got to get going, but Michael Dubb and Jorge Abreu have the 10 Social Currency, who is coming in from Kentucky, ran right before Halloween.
I know you love those Korean breds.
I do. I remember, not Graham Motion, Dale Roman saying, because he had one for the Southern Korean Racing, he said, I was trying to get the Gulfstream Racing office to write me a Korean-only bred restricted race. They wouldn't do it.
That's what I was thinking of when I saw this horse, actually. But yeah, coming out of a solid race at Churchill, 2 next out winners gets the blinkers on today.
And good to see Tiz Wonderful over there producing. And yeah, but it's been a while since we had one of his running at Gulfstream Park. Race number 8 today as we flip the page. This will go as our final dirt race on this Wednesday card. Older filly mare, 3 lifetime claimers. Dawn Lightning, very dangerous against Special Counsel. They're both coming in off different-looking victories, but at this 1 mile distance apiece. I do want to mention the number 5 quickly, an optimistic shot, who the more I look, this horse should be an okay price, this trap shot filly. I feel as though a 1-turn 8-furlong race is her best game, and she didn't get that over across town at GPW.
2 turns a mile at Gulfstream West, a good point there. You look back in September at that 1-turn mile, very good race. You'll get a nice price there. That could be a very good pick for sure. I just like the speed of Special Counsel inside. Yeah,
come and get her with Paco for veteran trainer Milt Wolfson. Here's our featured 9th race. This will go as the West Point featured race of the day as well. Solid field in this higher level, 2 other than Older filly mare turf sprint, and this begins an all-turf late double. Escapade, I feel as though, is the starting point with her speed, and a good effort will show you. Speaking of right before Halloween, this race back on October 27th across town in Miami Gardens. She did everything right but win. To me, the wild card out of this race isn't Escapade, it's Brandy's Girl, whether a horse who's got so much back class, and outside of Payne Price 2 summers ago was one of the best turf sprinters, male or female, in South Florida. Does she improve off a so-so effort getting back to the races here?
I think Brandy's Girl might not be quite as sharp as what we saw from her a year or 2 ago. She never looked fully settled to me there, so maybe the freshening is going to help. Certainly, Eddie Brim's done a fantastic job keeping her in good form, in very solid form, and Luca Panici rides her well. Escapade has that speed. I'm taking a shot with the 4, My Sister Caro, who I think she was kind of over her head. She never really got the trip that she wanted in the Claiming Crown Distaff Dash with the outside post going 5 furlongs last time out. Maybe she's not quite as sharp as what we saw from her last year, but we've seen 3 horses come out of that race to win, and I thought it was a strong field that she was running against.
No, she is a 5-furlong specialist, whereas Escapade and Brandy's Girl have that trait too. That's what tripped me up with Factor of One on the rail for Christophe Command and Wesley Ward and Johnny V. With Fairyland, they're going to take a lot of money, and they really haven't been 5-furlong turf specialists.
They're each going to have to be tested a little bit today. They're going to have a slight turn back, and Fairyland has not actually won on the turf. She's run well. She hasn't won on the turf as of yet.
All right, we'll keep it at 5/8 as we cash out an all 5-furlong turf late double, and no shortage of contenders and faces here, both human and equine, as we go with a field of a dozen. Do note the 13 Swapino drew into the race, and I'm just going to take a little shot hoping the number 7 horse Subtle Hope off a well bet but non-effort on the turf first out. That second start on the dirt, a sign of good things to come. Maybe get a little more improvement out of that horse. Where you want Johnny V for Steve Caceres here with Feature Creature.
I do indeed. I've been waiting for this horse to turn back in distance. I think she's going to much prefer going the 5/8 again, comes out of a key race, and Johnny V sticking around to ride the nightcap, always a plus for me.
Yeah, no doubt about that. This is a very tough race, I think. Jorge Duarte on the rail, prepping for the show. I said, how could I have left the 1 Entrance Encore?
Well, look at this field, though. I mean, it's tough, yeah.
No, and that horse hasn't lifted a hoof. But again, there are many layers, a myriad of layers in today's nightcap, just like
it's like an onion.
Yeah, it is like an onion. And we're actually, as we peel the onion, which is Gulfstream today, we're getting to the best part, and that is the presence of course, the soothing sounds of Pete Aiello, who's coming up with those Wednesday scratches and changes right now.
One of the world's most anticipated thoroughbred racing events of the year returns. The 3rd annual Pegasus World Cup Invitational at Gulfstream Park in South Florida. Drawing competition from around the world with a $16 million purse split between 2 Grade 1 races. On the dirt and on the turf. Experience the incredible fashion, spectacular world-class service and entertainment, and the unrivaled adrenaline of the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. Saturday, January 26th at Gulfstream Park. Get your tickets now at PegasusWorldCup.com.